I grew up in Upper Michigan in a little community of about 30 families, nestled in the forest. My parents had a two-room house, and we didn't have running water, electricity, and my parents hunted for our food. And I learned really young that walking through the forest softly was really important, and to trust our intuition of which way to go because there was no path. What I found was that at the end of the day, I really felt like that I lived with everything I needed. We had a garden and life was good. I loved being in nature. And at 8 years old, things changed for me. So my mom and dad actually built their own home, 3-bedroom home. And now we had electricity, we had running water, we had a bathroom, and we had a phone for the first time. So life was good. And my mom and dad went in business for themselves in the heating and plumbing business, which was an ideal time because there was many families just like we came out of that didn't have plumbing and heating. So my dad was wise in that as far as what business to go into. So money, let me tell you what I learned about money. So because my father had been raised poor and worked so hard, both my mom and dad, for money, that as a child, he'd say, money doesn't grow on trees. And if I asked for something, even simple things, he would say, don't ask for anything and don't ask for it twice. I thought it was about me personally, but it really was because he didn't have money. So I didn't see money as a child. It was like this foreign thing that was really a mystery, like my dad had it. My mom didn't share much at that time. So growing up, money definitely was a thing I just didn't see. I couldn't compute how you made it, and eventually learned that if I worked really hard, I could make it. And that's been my story. So fast forward, when I'm 25 years old, I'm in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I get a job as a vice president for a company that I helped them grow into 5 different states. I'm doing all the hiring, the training, all the accounting, because I was taught as a child how to work hard. And one of the fun memories is that when I would go on location, I would drive to the local airport and get on a private plane to go on location. I also drove a company car. I was on 3 board of directors, and actually one board of directors was a 100-year-old company that invited me to be on their advisory board. So all along, when I look back, I was known for my intuition, that I could trust my intuition, even though at that time I didn't really understand how I knew what I knew. That now I have a totally different understanding of that. So the next thing was I went through a divorce, and then I moved to Dallas, Texas, and I got hired on by H. Ross Perot, who eventually ran for president. And his company was headquartered in Dallas, but they had 40,000 employees. They were in they had 9 corporations, and they were located in 25 states. So now I made the payroll manager over this whole event. And while being the payroll manager, they also assigned me one of 6 people to head up a brand new credit union. So the stress of it all, the success of it all, was beyond anything that I had ever witnessed. To an outsider, it would look like, wow, I had really arrived. But internally, for my body, the stress of it was like being on a train, but there's no tracks down the end of the road. So my stress level got so high that at age 36, my whole life changed. I had never gotten sick up till then, and if I did, I worked over the top of it. So work was what I lived for, was my worth. I wasn't chasing money, but the jobs just, I couldn't get off of it. I mean, I hardly could take a vacation because they needed me. At age 36, I got allergies. I sneezed a lot, and it was like my whole life was like, what is this? So I went to an allergy doctor, and I took allergy shots 3 times a week for 5 months. My allergies went away, but soon after my cheeks turned red, and from red, I broke out in acne. Now I'm 36 years old, so makeup isn't covering it up. And soon I'm in North Carolina as a speaker for a week, and my face breaks out in boils. And I was so embarrassed. Here I am in my business suit and high heels, and this face, what is going on? So I came back and I went to my first skin cancer doctor, not thinking that I had cancer. I just needed a quick fix because the corporate world needed me. And I needed them too, because I had already created a work addiction, that was how I stayed numb, and also was the fuel that kept me going. If I never got quiet. Maybe some people can identify with that. Busyness was my way of life. So the skin cancer doctor diagnoses me with an incurable called rosacea, deforming, disfiguring disease that also could affect my eyesight. Now in the corporate world, if I would have told my employers, this is just incurable, these employees are incurable, the sales, that we can't solve anything, I wouldn't have had a job. So listening to this man was just like totally different than my experience. And he wanted to medicate me, but in my heart, I knew medication wasn't what I was lacking. And it was a time of really getting quiet inside and realizing that I knew more about employees and business structure and solving things, but I knew nothing about my body. And I knew I was out of control. I just knew that this is not the time in life to now seek prevention and natural remedies when you're already diagnosed. So I decided right there that nobody should be put in that helpless position again, especially me, the one that knows how to solve problems, and that I would solve it. Well, I didn't know what I didn't know, what the journey was going to intake. So in the next 6 years, I'll just fast forward. I went to Mayo Clinic. I've been to Duke Medical University. I've been to all kinds of dermatologists, but asking the same question, plus a lot of holistic doctors and practitioners asking the same question. The body can't be this complicated. If we scratch our arm today and it heals, then the immune system must have some similarities. So why would this be incurable? And if you have a healthy cell today and a disease cell tomorrow, why can't it reverse? I could not find those answers. So in the meantime, I'm fasting, I'm studying every kind of natural remedy there is. I'm studying, taking and finding books from a long time ago of how people heal from anything and everything. And I'm trying to study what they did to try to find what the steps are. In the meantime, by the time I'm 42, my face is deforming and I'm losing my eyesight. So at that point, there's these people all the way along that when they see me, even in a grocery store, there would be a little child that would come up and see this deformed face, bright red, and start screaming like I was a monster, that they had seen some part of their TV program. So there was many layers of embarrassment and having to just act strong. Then there was the people that wanted to be the helpers. They send me articles and have you been in a fire and have you tried this? And so that went on. And then there was the good people that really believed that I must have done something horrible in my past, that Jesus was punishing me and that I must be walking with Satan. And so anyway, I was involved with a church that baptized me 3 times. And I honestly didn't know if they knew something that I didn't know. But each time I went down into the water and came back up the same was even more shameful. Nobody asked to hug me. Nobody asked, have you cried? I hadn't cried for years. So I was really in an isolation of the only way I could tolerate living through this was to just shut my heart down, shut my tears down, and just keep going. Because suicide was really a comforting thought, but I also had in my heart, I had solved so many corporate problems that I knew that what is the opportunity of healing this? And I didn't want to miss the opportunity by just ending my life. So I just kept going. So at 42, I'm in California now at a conference on cancer, coronary, and stroke. I knew I didn't have any of them, but surely it was about healing these horrendous diseases. And so I'm listening to this one doctor share that when he came to America, he wanted to become a medical doctor and understand the immune system rather than just cutting it out and medicate it. And I'm like all ears. Who is this person? And so I was able to get 1 hour with this doctor, and I had my files with this big thick file of everybody I had been looking at, and seeing and asking questions. And he went back to the original allergy shots that I got, and he said, most people get arthritis from these shots, but because you had burnt out your immune system, was his take, and that was really the truth, that it came out on my face, but it came out on my face as a language. I didn't know that at the time. So he said, I don't know if you'll ever heal. Stop going to doctors showing you all these pictures of what it could be, the worst scenarios, and find peace within. I hadn't known peace for years. It was like, it sounds so simple. It sounds so simple, but it was like such a foreign thought. Peace within, what would that feel like? He also identified that I had an internalized quiver. Nobody else had identified that. An internalized quiver, no one will heal with that, because it means that all 12 organs have shifted out of harmony with nature. And when that happens, it's from being so scared, so traumatized, that internally, it's like you just have this internal fear around the clock, 24 hours a day. So after that 1 hour, I actually went and got into emotional healing in a group of 80 people. Now, I didn't know if I was strong enough to go in front of 80 people looking at me, that I was so scared that I would have a nervous breakdown. But I got involved with a week-long workshop with 80 people, and I started listening to their stories. Nobody up till now had considered the emotional component. What does it feel like to lance boils? What does it feel like to never, ever have a safe place to just go and be Georgie? So from there, I studied with them. I got to see people heal of anything and everything by just sharing their stories. So I stayed involved with them for the next 9 months to 12 months. And over those months, they got me to share my story, to start whimpering into crying, and to really see what I had went through. And in that 12 months, I healed. My capillaries healed, my eyesight came back. And at that moment, I dedicated my life to God, to sharing my story. And I've been doing that ever since. So one of the things in that group of 80 people that I learned was I had a frozen emotion, that when I was 14, I was date raped. I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my mom and dad. I was so embarrassed, but so literally traumatized from the event that I just swallowed it and acted like nothing really happened. I tried to put it behind me. At the same time, I was taking voice lessons and playing my piano, and my voice teacher died right around the same time. So I ended up not singing for approximately 20 years. So being date raped set me on a journey of not wanting to feel. It was like I went from this happy child of doing music into totally shutting down emotionally. And when I discovered work, that's what I did. It was like work became my drug of choice. So where else is this language of our emotions and our trauma going to appear? For me, it appeared on my face. If it had been on my back, I probably wouldn't be alive right now because nothing stopped me. But once it was on my face, I had to stop working. So it was really an event that taught me through this whole journey of emotional healing that there's a language behind it. So our body, our sacred body, which I had never considered before that my body was sacred. It was supposed to be like my computer, just show up and appear. So I was really a glorified robot in my thinking. Very brilliant, but with no emotions behind it. And the gift that came out of it is many, many gifts. But one of the things I got to personally experience that I would not have learned in any college or university is how our emotions speak in a physical language, not to be feared, cursed, or many times even cut out. But it's a language trying to get us back into nature's way. That the great divine, whatever we want to call it, that puts air in our breath and beats our heart, has a plan. And we are connected to nature. And when we go against nature, then the body's going to break down. And when we don't appreciate our bodies and we hate ourselves and we hate our situation, and we do work that we don't enjoy, the body is like, I brought you to this earth for a purpose and passion, and you're not living it. So for me, it was a very big wake-up call. And as you can see, I have 4 self-help books that I've written, and they're all self-help of my story. I've helped now hundreds of people, even internationally, which has just been a thrill that I can teach, I can pray with people, and I can teach people now, say that they came to me with acne and rosacea. I can help them heal in 3 to 6 months what took me 7 years to heal, and far more years after that to heal the emotional trauma of going through that experience. So my joy in life and gift is now to see that money flows, life flows, and wanting all of us to learn to live our passion and not waste life doing mundane things with eat, sleep, and work, where we're just kind of tethered to that same routine. But just reach in and bring out the joy within you. And I'm just going to leave you with this thought. In a 24 hours a day, check in and see how many hours bring you true joy, and then start doing more of what you enjoy, and watch the universe just praise you and wrap you in its arms to share with you, yes, this is what you were intended to be, creative, in love with life, in love with yourself, and to know how to prevent illness and disease so that you're never placed in that helpless position that I was at one time in my life.